Average Woodsman here, back with another video. So today I want to cover escape and evasion in a wilderness environment. How a woodsman uses terrain, bushcraft skills, awareness, smart movements, all to avoid being detected by a group or individuals maybe while you're out in the woods. I'm going to show you guys how a woodsman disappears when someone is hunting you. It's really going to come down to your skills, your tactics, how you move through the woods, all those things, terrain, those are all going to play a factor in this. Movement, concealment, misdirection, natural camouflage, bushcraft skills, long-term evasion tactics. I'll show you guys all those things in this video. I'm going to go section by section, and I'll break everything down for you guys. Alright, so who is this for? Who is a video like this for? Could be someone looking for you. You're a hunter. You're out in the woods. It could be SHTF. You could be in some sort of a grid down situation. Maybe there's a foreign force that's invaded our country, and you are on a homestead, or you have a homestead, or maybe you are outside of a major city. You've bugged out into the woods, or you've bugged out to your bug out location, which is more in a woodland environment, and now obviously you're going to have to hunt or trap or fish, all those types of things to help sustain your family along with whatever you have on the property or in your location that you have your camp. So that's kind of what this video is for. Something when you're being chased or you're being pursued. Remember, this is strictly for educational purposes. The first rule I want to talk about is something called the 5-minute rule. Basically how it works is the first 5 minutes decides if you are going to live or if you're going to get caught. That's kind of where all this starts off. Remember, one thing you want to do that will really aid in your survival in a situation like this, or at least in your ability to evade capture, is you want to avoid confrontation, focus on breaking lines of sight and creating distance between you and your attacker. So the first thing you want to do, if you do have some sort of a contact with a group or another person, someone who may very well be hostile, you want to break contact with them and get away as fast as you possibly can. Alright, so you've ran until you feel like your lungs are going to explode. I ran all the way from one marsh through some thick oak and some saw palmetto all the way to the backside of another marsh. So I ran a good distance. Remember, break lines of sight, break contact instantly. You don't want to be anywhere near whoever is pursuing you. Alright, now that I've broken contact, I can take a second, I can assess my situation, I can look at what I need to do, if there's any good hide locations. I need to assess where I'm at. Do I have sufficient knowledge of the terrain? Do I have a map on me? When you're being pursued, when you are breaking contact, make sure that you don't run in a straight line. Use the terrain. You want to funnel against your pursuer, so you want to make sure that you're getting off the X as fast as possible. Use natural cover. I have a lot that I can use in this general area. One thing good about the region that I live in is there's a lot of natural canopy. It's thick, it's dense, and when I usually go out, I'm either wearing subdued colors, or sometimes I'll even wear camouflage. I found that in my specific area, probably the best camouflage is Multicam Tropics. Make sure that you're able to stay hidden and use natural cover to hide yourself from your pursuers. Also, understanding humans' behavior can help you out a lot. So there's an anti-tracking technique that you can use once you've broken contact and created distance between you and your pursuers. That's called bounce. You basically are going to, obviously you're going to create tracks no matter how you move. You can move silent, you can move stealthy, you can move slowly, but you're going to create tracks in dirt, you're going to create tracks in mud, you're going to create tracks in sand. So one technique that you can use is, as you're creating those tracks from your stride, you can step back 3 to 4 times into your existing tracks. So say that I'm moving, I step backwards into this track, I step back into my existing track, and then I step off and I go in an opposite direction or a different direction. This creates confusion. This will help throw off your pursuers. Remember, when you're being pursued, your main goals are going to be break visual detection. You want to increase the distance between you and your attackers, or you and your pursuers, and you want to stay unpredictable and avoid leaving signs. So you're not going to want to break branches. You're going to want to try to leave as few of signs that you've been there as possible. That's going to be your main goal. When you're moving, you want to move calmly, you want to move slowly, you want to control your breathing, you want to avoid any type of panic. Panic can get you killed in this situation, and it can definitely get you caught. So be on the lookout, move quietly, move slowly. I'm going to show you guys a technique called the box walk that works that helps when you're moving slowly and calmly. It helps with the amount of noise that you make, so that way you're not detected. Another thing you want to do is you want to observe first, move second. So you want to scan, you want to look for different smells, different sights. You want to think in layers, so vision, sound, signs, sight, things like that. Those are going to be all important to avoiding detection. Use the tools that you have available in your mindset, your skill set. If you have cover, if you have camouflage, all those types of things. You don't want to get in a fight or flight mode, because you don't want to get in contact with these people. You don't want to get in that type of a situation where you don't want to get in a gunfight, because that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to provide for your family, and someone either saw you, or maybe they have dogs that smelled you. Something happened where now you're being pursued. All right, so one technique you can use is called a fox walk. Now, if you're just walking along normal, even if I try, you can hear, even if I'm walking relatively slowly, I'm making a lot of noise. But if you intentionally walk with slow movement and you put your foot down, you roll your foot as you're walking, even with all those leaves here, all the brush, as you can hear, there's virtually no sound. So I'm walking. It's a technique that really helps you move intentionally, slowly, and makes very, very little sound, as little sound as possible. So there's another technique that I want to talk about it's actually called pressure release tracking. It was developed by trackers including Tom Brown Jr. And as an animal walks, it generally uses different types of indentations in the ground, which correspond to its speed, its direction, and the changes in motion. That's also something that you want to use when you're out and you're in a situation like this, along with the fox walk technique, you can really avoid detection by using specific techniques that will help you. Alright, so immediate action after spotting a group or a military force or whoever's coming after you, you want to freeze and reduce movement. As you just saw, I was able to disappear into the woods, into the brush, by concealing myself and reducing movement to almost completely zero. So cover and concealment, you want to scan for water routes, you want to look for wind direction. All these types of things will help you when you're evading someone, and using cover and concealment is really important with that. Also, there's a technique that you can use called a ghost suit. This refers to basically almost like a natural ghillie suit. So what you'll do is you can actually take clothing, weave material in and out of your clothing, attach it to your hat. You can attach it to your hat. You can take debris, you can take dirt, you can put it on your clothing. You can put mud and things like that on your hands and face to help break up your silhouette. All these types of things can be helpful when you're being pursued. One thing that you want to do is you want to move like an animal, not like a human. Smell discipline, so wind direction, no fires, no smoke, etc. Things like that. There are even techniques that you can use, like urinating in a bottle. If you have a plastic bottle, that can throw off pursuers, that, especially if they have dogs. You can use, if you're out hunting, you can use the guts from a kill to either walk in the opposite direction that you're going to go, dig a hole, or put that, drag that animal or the gut pile, 100, 200 yards in the opposite direction that you're going. All these things can throw off a pursuer, especially if they have dogs. Alright, let's talk briefly about thermal concealment. So, like I said earlier, one benefit that I have is I'm in an area that has a large canopy, and it's very thick, it's dense, so brush always beats open ground. Staying under that canopy, especially if you're being pursued by a drone or by helicopter, in some of those instances you're just going to kind of be screwed. But if you're able to get hidden under a thick, dense canopy, it's going to do a lot better. You're going to be better off than if you're out in an open area like a field or a grassy bog or something like that, where you're out in the open. Alright, so another thing I want to talk about is how to use natural material to muffle your sounds when you are moving. So moss, damp ground, a lot of times pine needles can do that as long as they're not too dry. They can do that. Also, move through areas where you have natural noise. So wind, rain is a really good one. It helps saturate the ground. It creates a lot of noise, especially in a wilderness environment. If you can find areas where there are like a moving stream or a river. Now remember, you don't want to move along the bank of that river because that's going to be a high trafficked area, but it's okay, or it can be advantageous to move somewhere along it, off of it, to help with the sound. Stay off of observable trails, game paths, things like that. You want to stay off of those high traffic areas. So favor creek beds, dried up creek beds can be a good area. Rock shelves, leaf-free areas if you do have that luxury. I don't in my area, so I have to pick and choose where I move and how I move along those areas. The main thing is to avoid open ground, avoid clearings, avoid areas that are going to be high trafficked areas. Even animal routes can lead to issues. So just try to avoid those areas and move during low light conditions is another one that can really help with all of this, depending on your specific situation. If you're talking about night vision, thermal, stuff like that, you're getting into a totally different situation where now you have to take those into consideration. But under normal circumstances, you're probably going to be best off moving at night, staying away from, like, during the day, the midday, when visibility is going to be at its highest. You kind of want to avoid those areas, things like that. The weather, like I said, using rain and things like that as cover can help a lot to keep you from getting caught by your pursuers. Another thing that you can do is, and this is going to sound like common sense, but don't step on anything that you can step over. Don't break anything that you don't have to break. All these will create sound. This can create, obviously, issues. If I am walking past and I happen to bump into this and now this breaks, this is obvious. This is something that someone or something moving through this area did. If I'm moving along, I'm going to step over. I'm not going to step on, because I may break this, I may leave an indentation in this, I may leave mud from my boots on this. All those types of signs can show, especially if someone's tracking you. If you have a good tracker, they're going to be able to see signs like this. If I get mud on something, they're going to be able to see footprints, broken branches, turned over leaves, mud smears on rocks and logs, grass, displacement. That's how, if you're a hunter or you're someone who spends a lot of time out in the woods, you'll see game trails, natural game trails where that's worn down, and you'll see things like that. All of those are signs that you need to understand. So I just want to show you guys, as you guys can see, this broken branch, that's obvious. This mud right here from stepping on this, all obvious. So make sure that you're doing things that won't leave signs behind. So before I close out this video, I want to talk just a little bit about Woodsman gear that you're going to want to have with you. If you were in this situation, obviously, if you're out in some sort of a situation where you are in, maybe, like I said previously, maybe SHTF, it could be grid down, maybe there's some sort of a foreign military force that's invaded, you're obviously going to have some sort of a rifle with you. In this instance, I have my Ruger American. This one is in 300 blackout. I have my suppressor. The good thing about this rifle is it can use AR-15 style magazines, so I have a smaller magazine when I'm out hunting, and I also have additional larger magazines in here if I needed that. Hopefully I would not, because I do not want to get in a gunfight. That's not my intentions. But having some sort of a minimalistic kit, a good backpack, some sort of a water source with you, so you can stay hydrated, especially on the move, are all really important. Another thing that you want to focus on is having a good knife, just in case you have to use it. A good fixed blade knife that's full tang. This may end up being your only tool that you have if you were to have to ditch your backpack and a lot of your gear. As long as you still have your pants, you'll still have your knife. So having a really good full tang belt knife, I think, is really important. Also, you want to modify your bushcraft gear or your survival gear to stay with kind of the stealth mentality, especially if you're in a hostile environment like you may very well be in. If there was some type of invasion or SHTF, you want to have your gear adapt to your specific situation. So that's kind of one thing I wanted to talk about. Also, I wanted to talk about kind of noise and light discipline. So obviously you're not going to be out here chopping wood. You're not going to be out here making primitive shelters. You don't want any gear that's going to be clanking or making noise. You don't want anything like that. You want to focus on not making any signs. Obviously, no flashlights, no fires. Even if you were to have to make a fire, which you really don't want to. Focus on something that, like a Dakota fire hole, make that near some sort of a tree or a cliff side or a rock formation. That way that smoke, it's not going to create as much smoke, and that smoke will dissipate. I'll probably do, if you guys do like this content, I'll probably make this into a series, because there's so much more that I could show you guys, but this video would be 2 or 3 hours long, and I don't really want it to be that long. So one last thing that I want to mention about gear is I have obviously my Hill People Gear chest bag. So in here I have my sidearm, I have additional magazines, I have additional survival gear. So even if I had to ditch my bag, I still have a way to defend myself. I have a radio, which, you know, I may or may not use. I have a tourniquet. I have additional things on me in my pockets, like cordage. I have additional cordage in here. I have additional survival items in here. I have my compass. I have on me, I have a multi-tool. So I have gear on me just in case. My knife, I have gear on me just in case if I had to ditch my backpack, if I had to ditch my rifle for some reason, I still have items on me that I could use and aid in my survival and evasion. Alright, so real quick before I close this video out, I want to show you guys the difference between a good hide and a bad one. So right behind me, I have a pretty good hiding spot where I have thick canopy above me. I have a lot of dense brush that I can hide in. I could make an impromptu ghillie suit if I have to. There's a lot of mud and dirt and debris that I could use to wipe on myself to help break up my silhouette. This is considered a good hiding spot, especially from overhead or even from pursuers on the ground. I'm going to roll in photos of what is considered not a good hiding spot that I took earlier when I was out here moving, and I'll roll those in now. Alright guys, so that's the video. If you like this type of content, I could turn this into a series depending on how many views it gets and if you guys are interested in it. You know, just remember, the best single tool that you have at your disposal is your mind and a good set of boots. You want to be able to move quickly. You want to be able to use techniques specific to your survival and your ability to avoid being detected. You don't want to get caught, and using techniques that'll keep you alive and keep you from being detected in any type of situation where you're evading capture is going to be really important. Also, one thing that's really important is to remember that the woods doesn't really care who's right or wrong. It just cares who's the quietest. So avoiding making a lot of noise, avoiding being seen, those are really the major keys. So remember to like, subscribe, share these videos with your friends and family. Be safe, stay dangerous, and I'll catch you on the next one.